This is your CEO assessment tip. Today we're talking about strategy. This is often a favorite topic, but how do we really know if your chief executive officer has the strategic skills that we need to move your business forward? Here are a few questions that you can ask. I always like to start with an identity question. So number one, are you a strategist? Does your candidate identify with the core skills that we need to be successful in the role? Some CEOs will say, actually Shane, I'm not a strategist. I use an external resource for that. Okay, that's fine. Move on to question number two. How do you define strategy and how should a CEO use strategy? Here, we want to have evidence of a CEO who's thought about how the various skill sets in the C-suite fit together, and they should have a succinct and punchy definition of strategy and a clear idea of how the CEO should use it. We would like to have a definition around something around its use for creating a sustainable competitive advantage in the long term. Question number three is data. Please give me an example of a time you were able to acquire proprietary data that your competitors did not have. This is the bedrock of a strategic process. You cannot create a good strategy without having good data. And if I'm going to have a strategy that's going to outperform the competition, I have to have access to data and information that they do not have or information that they are ignoring. So great CEOs who are really strategic will invest resources in creating this data set. And so we want to ask them, what have you done to acquire this data? To give you an example, Glenn Bell, the founder of Taco Bell, when he was creating the Taco Bell restaurants, at night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, he used to drive around to his competitor restaurants and he would count how many tomato crates are in the garbage behind the restaurants. And from that, he would be able to calculate how many tacos have you made, how many customers have you served by the amount of tomatoes you're consuming. So here's a clear example of how top performers acquire that competitive data and they inculcate it into their business plans. Question number four, what are your favorite strategic frameworks and can you give me an example of how you've applied them? The CEO should have a toolkit to look at old problems from a new perspective and to apply different frameworks and should be able to compare and contrast the different frameworks available in order to come up with new solutions to old problems. Question number five is, what is the future state of your industry and how will you stay competitive as these changes take place? So how will you continue to drive profits, revenue, and be competitive 5 years from now? This is a very relevant question because this is the CEO's job and this is what all the other questions are building up to. So you're acquiring the right data, you're applying the right frameworks, you're creating the right strategy, and then you're answering the question in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, this is how we're going to compete, and these are the capabilities that we need to outperform our competition in the long run. So it's a very relevant question. Question number six, how long is your strategic cycle? Veteran CEOs know that it takes a long time to take something from a concept through the implementation, to execution, to profitability, to fine-tuning your revenue stream. Rookie CEOs will always underestimate how long that takes. Veteran CEOs will know that it can take a year to 2 years just to build the right team in place so that you can execute. Rookie CEOs will always miss their deadlines, will go over time, over budget, because they are underestimating how long the strategic cycle is. We want a CEO who has time and time again taken something from concept through to profitability. So these are just a few questions that you can ask if you want to understand what the strategic skill set is of your CEO. Of course, there are many, many more questions that you should be asking. We would be delighted to share those with you if you want to get in touch with us. Those are a few questions you can use to catch a CEO off balance. If you like those, you could pick up our book, CEO Assessment and Selection, which has over 400 questions that you can use in your CEO interviews. Also, on our book page, you can download a free sample of the book, and you can get a link to our book page in the description of this video.